Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Gorz, and I am here to present to you the second chapter in the K47 Grand Campaign, located here in Hobby Trench. Now, that said, today we will be going over 1939, April, the second turn and the second chapter of the Supreme Generals, movements and actions. I have here the entire article list of all of their orders, transactions, and plans, the schemes of these powerful people. And today I will be reporting to you as the news reporter to this war front. Let us begin now. New Prussia has not only conquered Great Britain, but has now built a garrison, fortifications, and defenses in the region. After bombarding it for several months, they have now cleared the way to build their own infrastructure and fortress upon the islands. They have nearly controlled all of Western Europe. All that is left to remain is Iceland, Ireland, and Spain, Italy of which has now been occupied by the new Prussian forces marching through Austria, which can be shown here coming down into the region. The court of Avalon has now retreated from Great Britain. Using the refuge offered by the Royal Tinmen in Iceland, they have been redirected to occupy Greenland to build a fortification and a counterattack into the Great Britain Isles. Moving towards the subcontinent of India, Avalon Court has begun to fortify, building a rift network in the Indian region, this being made up of the rare technologies and the supernatural. No one's to say what their plans are. All that we can tell is their economy and infrastructure are only being bolstered. Arctic Research Command, ARC for short, has begun to retreat forces from the Urals and has begun to make a peace treaty with the Moroz Division. This truce is uneasy at best and has begun to march those forces, redirecting them into Xinjiang, over in the Asian continent, contesting with the Emperor's Conquerors. While they are in the south in the stands, they began to fortify their forces in Afghanistan to push for an attack and the occupation of Pakistan. In the northern section of the world, Moroz Division begins to fortify and urbanize the Murmansk and Moscow reaches of the Russian western side. However, in the eastern side of Russia, the Moroz Division has began the process of unifying all of northern Siberia, all into one strip of land in their authority and control. There is yet to be any urbanization and building in these areas. However, they don't seem to have any threats with neighbors beyond the Great Iron Wall being formed on the Finnish border with New Prussia. Ohio's honor has agreed to the terms of British Columbia, and now British Columbia has joined their efforts and their army. In this treaty, they are now uniting as one force under Ohio's Honor's forces. Further south in Ohio's Honor's reaches of authority, there have been more occupations of the Caribbean islands, of Cuba moving to the Dominican Republic. From here, there is also fortifications and a laboratory being built in the jungles of Nicaragua. The Royal Tinmen, noticed in Australia as well as in the far north in Iceland, has done truly nothing but act in the profession of merchant, as they bought and sold resources, fuel, supplies, and rift technologies for plans that are unknown to any. They simply have been surging the economy with surplus resources. Who's to say where that's even gonna go? Farther south is the Project Colossus, Project Albion Colossus, known in Sudan, the Congos, and Saudi Arabia. Project Colossus has continued the shelling and the bombardment of the Yemen region south of Saudi Arabia. This being done by their gun emplacement newly installed in the previous 2 months. This has resulted in no casualties or damages and has been a colossal waste of resources. The Bloodied Stripes, an American force scattered across the entire North and Southern American continents, These forces have only been able to watch as the world falls into turmoil, building a laboratory in the Antarctica of Gramaland, as well as more refineries in the Alaskan reaches of the Klondike area. Beyond that, they only watch quietly, enforcing the coalition of the United Forces. On the southern reaches of the African continent, the Raja Sentry begins to expand in southern Africa, taking Mozambique. Did I say that wrong? Mozambique. Yeah. Mozambique? Is it Mozambique or Mozambique? Mozambique. Okay, gotcha. In the southern reaches of Africa, the Raja Sentry has continued to expand into Mozambique, taking the region for the Raja's order, and has now begun to confront the borders of both the Albion Colossus as well as the last Templars. They have not made any statements of any alliance with the Albion Colossus forces, nor have they spoken about anything but ceasefires and truces with the last Templars. For how loyal they are to the crown is for anyone to say, but they have seemed to have open tables with Axis powers. Speaking of the African front, the last Templars have continued their guerrilla warfare with Project Colossus. They have noticed that they are running out of manpower. By this visualization, the last Templars have sent their forces from Yemen down through Somalia to attack the Kenya region, cutting Project Albion's Colossus from all manpower production. In return, they are leaving up to risk the opening Levant for attack, hoping that the idea of their defense prior was enough to withhold Project Colossus from being willing to attack again. Hopefully this gamble plays out for them. However, they are very exposed, as both factions are. In South America, Death March continued to push uncontested over the regions of South America, this being watched by all of the American forces as he simply continues to unify the entire continent under one flag, one banner, one Death March. An ally to the Death March being the Eisenwerwolves. They continue to do nothing. That is all. They built a refinery. I don't know what they're doing. I guess we'll see. However, in contesting to that, contrasting with the prior statements of Eisenwerwolves, Liberty Sky continues to fortify and plan a defensive entrenchment of the northern subcontinent of South America. They seem to be the only Americans concerned with their adversary uniting the continent. In the eastern side of the Asian continent, the Emperor's Conquerors not only unified most of the regions of the Chinese subcontinent, however are now building battle fleets and shipyards as they plan a naval invasion of some player nearby. It is unclear what Supreme General is their target, but they seem to be ready for greater wars than just the simple unification of the Chinese region. What is it called? Borneo. Borneo. It's easy to say Borneo. I can do this. Speaking of the Japanese, the Kokutai Clan began to build their first rift network structure in Borneo, the Indonesian area of their island's domain. Doing so, they seem to be expressing that they are only liberating and uniting the island nations into one force together. This being shown in their various propaganda and news articles that have been insisted to be factually proven. The Red Army in Eastern Europe, simply now that they've united the subcontinent of Eastern Europe, they begin to build fortifications, gun emplacements, and an entire reimagining of the Iron Curtain upon the new Prussian border. After agreeing to a truce, simply said, the wall that shall not be passed. Both sides have decided to not approach each other in any other form of contact beyond the simple understanding that this line shall not be passed. This next turn I'm going to have to record. It's going to be a nightmare. People are building for... Someone bought 100 manpower. Insane. Crazy.